The shockwave hit like a physical wall. Ships were thrown backward, tumbling through space. Alarms screamed. Systems failed. The quantum cascade ripped through the swarm, tearing at its structure in ways that physics shouldn't allow. On the Indomitable's bridge, sparks flew from control panels. Admiral Na gripped her chair as the ship spun. Damage report. Hull breaches on 7 decks. Life support failing in sections C through G. Engines at 20%. The officer's voice was steady despite the chaos. We're alive, Admiral. Alive, such a simple word. Such an impossible word. The view screen cleared. The swarm was still there, but it had changed. Its edges writhed and twisted. The dark mass was collapsing inward, compressing, moving away from them, away from the rim worlds, toward empty space. It worked. Captain Day whispered. By all the stars, it actually worked. Dr. Sung stared at her readings. The cascade destabilized its core structure. It's retreating to preserve itself. We have maybe 6 months before it can reform and change direction. 6 months. Not forever. Not even close. But it was time. Fleet status, Na ordered. The reply came slowly. Ship by ship. The numbers were brutal. The Valiant was gone, consumed by the cascade. The Brave, the Steadfast, the Honor. 15 more ships had been destroyed. 22 others were so damaged they would never fly again. Hulks floating in space. 58 ships had entered the swarm. 15 came out intact enough to make it home. Na did the math in her head. Each ship carried a crew of between 200 and 400 personnel. The fighter wings had lost more than half their pilots. Total casualties, 15,206. Get me casualty lists, she said quietly. All of them. I want every name. Admiral, with respect, that can wait, Day said. We need to get the survivors to safety. The dead deserve to be counted first. Na's voice was firm. Get me the names. Across the damaged fleet, survivors struggled with their own losses. Pilot Quan floated in his fighter's cockpit. His engine was dead. His communications damaged. Through his viewport, he could see the debris field where Gil's fighter had been. His friend was gone. So many friends were gone. The emergency frequency crackled. All fighters, return to capital ships for recovery. If your ship is too damaged, transmit distress and wait for pickup. Quan checked his systems, maneuvering thrusters only. Not enough to reach the Indomitable. He transmitted his distress signal and waited. Around him, other damaged fighters did the same. Small lights in the darkness, hoping for rescue. In what remained of the Brave's command deck, a junior officer named Lieutenant June worked to keep her crew alive. 15 people trapped in a sealed section with oxygen running out. The ship was dead around them, but they were still breathing. Lieutenant, we have maybe 2 hours of air left, her engineer reported. Then we make it last 3. June checked her emergency beacon. Still transmitting. Someone would come. They had to. Reduce all non-essential activity. Stay calm. Breathe slowly. They waited in the dark, listening to each other breathe. The Indomitable limped through space, gathering survivors. Every life pod. Every damaged fighter. Every sealed section broadcasting a distress call. It took 8 hours to collect them all. Admiral Na walked through the medical bay. Rows of injured crew members. Doctors and nurses working frantically. The smell of burned flesh and sterilization chemicals filled the air. She stopped at each bed, spoke to each person who could speak back. You did well, she told them, over and over. You saved billions. You did well, some smiled, some cried, some just stared at nothing. I knew that look. Combat shock. She had worn it herself once long ago. Dr. Sung found her in the observation deck hours later. Sung looked exhausted. Her hands were shaking. The disruptors performed better than expected. Efficiency was 94%. If we had better ships, better shields, we could have done this with half the casualties. But we didn't have better ships. Na stared out at the stars. We had what we had, and we used it. 15,000 dead, Admiral. 15,000, I know. I'm reading their names. All of them. It's taking hours. Na turned to look at Sung. Do you regret it? Regret building the weapons? No, regret that so many died using them? Every second, Sung sat down heavily. But I'd do it again. Is that wrong? I don't know, maybe, probably. Na sat beside her. But we'd all do it again. That's what makes us human, or crazy. Sometimes I can't tell the difference. The fleet began its long journey home. Damaged ships traveling slowly. 3 weeks to reach the nearest council station. 4 weeks to Earth. Behind them, the swarm continued its retreat into empty space. News traveled faster than ships. The galaxy learned what humanity had done. The rim worlds received the data first. 30 billion people who had prepared to die, who had watched the council abandon them, learned that a species barely a century into spaceflight had saved them. Governor Patel stood in Talaxis-Afur's capital square and read the names. All 15,206. It took hours. People gathered to listen. They wept for strangers who had died for them. The council received the same data. In the great hall above their dying world, they watched recordings of the battle, saw the human ships fly into certain death, saw them succeed where the council said they would fail. The Vrelian ambassador sat in silence. The Corthan matriarch said nothing. The Archon's many eyes blinked slowly. They actually did it, someone whispered. They lost 80% of their fleet, another argued. That's not victory. They saved 30 billion lives. If that's not victory, what is? The argument spread through the council chambers. Some called the humans reckless, some called them heroes. Most just felt uncomfortable. The humans had proven something the council didn't want to face, that sometimes courage mattered more than calculations. That sometimes the young saw clearly what the old had forgotten. On Earth, crowds gathered at the memorial sites. The government had announced the casualties as soon as the news came through. 15,206 names. Each one would be carved into stone. Each one would be remembered. Engineer Hayes stood before the first memorial stone. It was blank still, waiting for the names. She had survived, had made it back on one of the intact ships. But so many hadn't. Did we do the right thing? Someone asked behind her. A young woman, maybe 20. Tears on her face, I don't know, Hay admitted. We did what we thought was necessary. Whether it was right? History will decide that. My brother was on the Valiant. Commander Wren was his commanding officer. He said she was the best officer he'd ever served under. She was. Hay's voice was soft. She saved the mission. Stayed behind to arm a failing disruptor. We owe our success to people like her. Did she know that she was going to die? Yes, she knew, and she did it anyway. Hay turned to look at the young woman. That's what makes it matter. Not that they died, but that they chose to, knowing what it would cost because others would live. The young woman wiped her eyes. I'm enlisting tomorrow. If this happens again, I want to be ready to stand like they did. She wasn't alone. Across human space, recruitment centers were overwhelmed. People wanted to serve, wanted to be worthy of the sacrifice they had witnessed. The fleet had lost 15,000, but humanity had gained something harder to measure: purpose. Captain Day compiled reports in her quarters. The mission had succeeded, but barely. The swarm would return, different, stronger. They had bought time, not victory. Earth would need to build better weapons, better ships, train more crews, and next time they might not be so lucky. A message came through on her private channel. From the Corthan matriarch, personal communication. Day almost deleted it. Then curiosity won. Captain Day, the council has watched your fleet's actions. We were wrong to dismiss you. Not about the risk. That was accurate. But wrong to believe the risk was not worth taking. The Corthan Empire wishes to formally apologize and offer assistance in rebuilding your fleet. Day stared at the message. An apology? From the council? From a species that had called them foolish children? She sent a simple reply. Rebuilding assistance accepted. Apology acknowledged. But understand this. Humanity did not do this for your approval. We did it because it needed to be done. If a similar situation arises, we will do it again, with or without council support. The reply came hours later. We are beginning to understand that. Perhaps that is what the galaxy needs. Admiral Na sat alone in her quarters, reading names. She was on page 47. Hundreds of names. Thousands still to go. Each one a person, a life. A story ended. Lieutenant June Park. Age 29. Engineering specialist. Died when the Brave's emergency seals failed during rescue operations. She had kept 15 people alive for 3 hours. 14 of them survived. Pilot Gil Huang. Age 34. Fighter pilot. Destroyed during swarm engagement. Survived by wife and 2 children. Commander Rin Song. Age 41. Systems specialist. Died manually activating quantum disruptor. Mission success attributed directly to her actions. Now read each name, each biography, each story. It would take days, maybe weeks, but she would read them all. Remember them all. It was the least she could do. The only thing she could do. Outside her window, Earth hung in space. Blue and green and beautiful. 15,000 had died to protect strangers, but they had also died for this, for home. For the idea that some things were worth any cost. The fleet would reach Earth in 4 weeks. The fleet traveled through empty space for 2 weeks. Every day the swarm grew larger on their sensors. Every day, more data came in about what they would face. None of the data was encouraging. In the Indomitable's briefing room, Admiral Na gathered her senior staff. Captain Day, now serving as tactical coordinator. Dr. Sung, chief of weapons. Commander Rin, deployment specialist. Pilot Quan representing the fighter wings. Others filled the remaining seats. Latest scans, Na said, activating the holographic display. The swarm appeared above the table. It looked like a wound in space, a dark mass that seemed to consume light itself. It's feeding on the red giant in System 447, using the star's energy to grow stronger. How much stronger? Day asked. 20% larger than when we left Earth, Sung replied, and it's accelerating. If we wait another week, it'll be too powerful to affect. Then we don't wait. Na looked around the table. We go in tomorrow. Deployment pattern Alpha. The Indomitable leads the first wave. Questions? What about withdrawal? Asked Commander Rin, if things go wrong. Na was quiet for a moment. There is no withdrawal. We succeed or we die trying. Everyone understood this when we volunteered. The room fell silent. It wasn't news. They all knew. But hearing it stated so plainly made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Quan spoke up. Admiral, permission to speak freely? Always. The pilots are ready. We know our job. We'll clear a path for the capital ships no matter what. He paused. It's been an honor flying with this fleet. Save the eulogies for after, Na said, but her voice was gentle. We're not dead yet. The meeting ended. People filed out slowly. Na stayed behind with Day. They had known each other for 20 years, had served together in the colony wars. You know we're probably going to die tomorrow, Day said. I know. Any regrets? Na thought about it. I regret that Earth only had 73 ships to send. I regret that we couldn't test the disruptors properly. I regret that the Council chose politics over lives. She looked at her old friend. But I don't regret being here. Do you? No, Day said. Not even a little bit. That night across the fleet, people prepared in their own ways. Some wrote letters that would never be sent. Some prayed to gods from a dozen different religions. Some simply sat quietly thinking about home. Dr. Sung checked and rechecked her calculations. The disruptors had to fire in perfect synchronization. Even a millisecond of variation could collapse the cascade. She had programmed the sequence herself, run simulations 1,000 times. But simulation wasn't reality. Beck found her staring at the equations. You should rest. Can't. Sung didn't look up from her screen. Every time I close my eyes, I see all the ways this can fail. And if you're too tired to think straight tomorrow, it definitely will fail. Beck put a hand on her shoulder. The math is good, Doctor. You know it is. Now you need to trust it. Sung finally looked up. When did you get wise? About 5 minutes ago. I'm running on adrenaline and terror, he smiled. But I'm right, aren't I? She saved her work and shut down the terminal. You're right. Let's get 4 hours of sleep. That's all we'll need. They both knew it was a lie, but sometimes lies were kinder than truth. In the fighter bay, Pilot Quan performed his final maintenance checks. His fighter, designated Blade 7, had been his for 3 years. He knew every panel, every wire, every quirk in the system. Tomorrow he would fly it into hell. Gil worked on the fighter next to his. Hey, Quan. What's the first thing you're going to do when we get back? If we get back. When, think positive. Quan considered. Probably sleep for a week. You, hug my kids. Tell my wife I love her about 1,000 times. Then sleep for a week. Gil paused. You ever think about settling down? Getting married? After tomorrow, if I'm alive, I'll think about it. Quan closed his maintenance panel. But I need to survive first. We'll survive. We're too mean to die. Quan laughed. It felt good to laugh. He didn't know if he'd get another chance. Dawn came, if such a thing existed in space. The fleet formed up into attack formation. The Indomitable at the center, surrounded by capital ships carrying the disruptors. Fighter wings spread out in protective screens. Admiral Na sat in her command chair. All ships, this is Indomitable. We are approaching the convergence point. Prepare for combat. The swarm filled the view screen now. Up close, it was worse than any image could convey. Space itself seemed wrong around it. Stars disappeared into its mass. The red giant it fed upon looked like a dying animal, its light being slowly drained away. Mother of God, someone whispered on the bridge. Steady, Na commanded. Remember your training. Follow the plan. The fleet moved forward, into the corona, into the zone where no ship should survive. Immediately, alarms began screaming. Hull temperature rising, radiation levels critical, shields at 50% and falling. The swarm had noticed them. Pieces of it broke off. Not creatures, not machines, just fragments of wrongness that moved with terrible purpose. They flowed toward the fleet like water running downhill. Fighter wings engage. Na ordered. Quan's squadron launched from the Indomitable's bay. 300 fighters spread across the fleet. They met the swarm fragments head-on. Blade 7 to all wings. Target the large masses first. Use pattern Delta. Quan's hands moved over his controls. His fighter danced between fragments, weapons firing in controlled bursts. Gil's fighter flew beside him. I've got your 6. A fragment larger than a battleship moved toward them. Quan armed his missiles. Firing! The missiles hit the fragment. For a moment, nothing happened. Then it convulsed, breaking into smaller pieces. But the smaller pieces kept coming. They're adapting, Gil shouted. Missiles aren't enough. Quan switched to energy weapons. Close range. Dangerous. The fragment reached for his fighter with appendages that shouldn't exist in normal space. He fired directly into its core. The fragment dissolved, but 3 more took its place. On the Indomitable's bridge, Day watched the tactical display. We're losing fighters. 15% casualties already. Keep formation, Na ordered. The capital ships must reach deployment positions. The fleet pushed deeper. The temperature rose. Ships began taking damage. The destroyer Courage lost its shields and started venting atmosphere. The cruiser Defiant reported engine failure and dropped behind. Valiant to Indomitable, Commander Rin's voice came through. We're at 60% engine capacity. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 5, but the disruptors are secure. Acknowledged, Valiant. Hold your position. Dr. Sung monitored the disruptor network from the Indomitable. 58 ships remaining in formation. We need at least 55 for the cascade to work. We'll make it, Na said. She had to believe that. The swarm pressed harder. More fragments. Larger fragments. They seemed endless. Quan's squadron fought desperately, trying to clear a path. Gil's fighter took a hit. Spun out of control. Gil! Status! I'm hit! Engines gone. Ejecting. Quan watched his friend's escape pod launch. Watched a swarm fragment move toward it. Watched Gil disappear. Damn it. Quan's voice broke. Blade 7 to all wings. Don't let them die for nothing. Hold the line. The fighters held. Somehow they held. The capital ships reached their positions. A perfect grid around the swarm's core. 58 ships, each carrying 12 quantum disruptors. Close enough to deploy. Close enough to die. All ships armed disruptors, Na commanded. Dr. Sung begins synchronization sequence. Sung's fingers flew across her console. Synchronization active. 90 seconds to cascade, 90 seconds. An eternity in combat. The swarm seemed to sense what was happening. It pulled back from the fighters and threw everything at the capital ships. The destroyer Brave exploded. The cruiser Steadfast lost structural integrity and broke apart. Commander Rin watched from the Valiant as ships died around her. 60 seconds, Sung called out. The Valiant's disruptor system flickered. Error warnings filled Rin's screen. Indomitable, this is Valiant. Our synchronization is failing. Someone needs to manually override the safety system. Valiant, evacuate your crew and abandon ship, Na ordered. Negative. Rin was already moving toward the cargo bay. Someone has to arm it manually. That someone is me. Commander, that's an order. Sorry, Admiral. Bad connection. Can't hear you. Rin cut the communication and reached the disruptor. The override panel was hot to the touch. She pulled it open and began rerouting power manually. 30 seconds. Sung's voice echoed through the fleet-wide channel. The Valiant's hull groaned, buckling under pressure and heat. Rin worked faster. Almost there, 15 seconds. The swarm surrounded them completely now. A wall of darkness on all sides. Quan's squadron flew through it, trying to buy seconds, trying to give the disruptors time. 10 seconds. Rin completed the override. Valiant disruptor armed and synchronized. Get out of there, Commander. Day's voice, no time. Rin looked at the disruptor. Her life's work. Fire the cascade, Doctor. Do it now. 3, 2, 1. Cascade firing. 73 quantum disruptors fired as one. Energy that shouldn't exist in normal space erupted from each ship. The beams converged on the swarm's core. For one perfect moment, everything stopped. Then the universe screamed. Earth's orbital shipyards had never been so loud. Welding torches sparked like small stars. Cargo haulers moved between construction frames. The sound of metal being cut, shaped, and joined together created a constant roar that vibrated through the station floors. Admiral Na stood in the command center, watching the work through reinforced windows. She was 60 years old and had fought in the Outer Colony Wars. She thought those had been the hardest days of her life. She had been wrong. Status report, she said to the officer beside her. 73 ships ready or nearly ready. Another 12 won't make the deadline. We're cannibalizing them for parts. The officer looked exhausted. Everyone looked exhausted. Nobody had slept properly in weeks, Na nodded. 73 ships, not nearly enough, but it was what they had. In Lab 7, Dr. Sung worked with her team. The quantum disruptors sat in a row, each one the size of a small car. They looked simple on the outside. Just metal boxes with cooling fins and power connections. Inside, they bent physics in ways that made most scientists uncomfortable. Will they work? Asked her assistant, a young man named Bayek. They should, Sung said, adjusting a connection. But we've never tested them at full power. Can't, actually. A full test would tear a hole in local space-time. That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. Sung straightened up, her back aching. She was 45 and had dedicated her life to peaceful energy research. Now her work would be used as a weapon. Fear keeps us careful. Careful keeps us alive. The calculations say 90% casualties. Then we'd be part of the 10%. Sung smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Now help me with the next one. We have 60 more to finish. At the military base below, pilot Quan reviewed his fighter's specifications. He was 28, young for a pilot, but skilled. His hands moved over the control panel, checking every system twice. Around him, 300 other pilots did the same. You really volunteering for this? Asked his friend pilot Gil. Gil was older, had a wife and 2 kids. You could request a transfer. Nobody would blame you. Could you? Quan asked. Gil was quiet for a moment. No, I couldn't. Then we both know why we're here. The pilots had all been briefed. They knew their job was to escort the larger ships through the swarm's outer edges. They knew the swarm would try to intercept them. They knew most of them would die before reaching the deployment zone. They volunteered anyway. On the manufacturing levels, Commander Rin supervised the loading operations. Each quantum disruptor weighed 40 tons. Each had to be secured perfectly in the ship's cargo bay. A mistake during transport could destabilize the device. Careful with that connection, Rin called out to a crew member. That cable controls the synchronization. If it's damaged, the entire network fails. The crew member nodded, moving more slowly. Rin watched every movement. She was responsible for these devices, responsible for making sure they reached their destination. She took that responsibility seriously. Her second-in-command approached with a datapad. Commander, the Indomitable's final disruptor is secured. That's 12 on the flagship. Good. Move to the Valiant next. Rin marked the completion on her own pad. The Valiant would be her ship. She would ride with the disruptors she had loaded. It seemed right. In the diplomatic sector, Captain Day attended meeting after meeting. Representatives from the Rim worlds wanted to know if humanity was serious. If they were really coming. We're coming, Day told them for the 100th time. 4 weeks. That's when the fleet launches. The council says you'll fail, said Governor Patel of Talaxis IV. He was human, but his colony had been independent for generations. They say your plan is suicide. Maybe they're right, Day admitted. But we're doing it anyway. Why? Patel leaned forward. Why spend Earth's entire military force to save colonies you have no connection to? Dee thought about that. Because we can. Because someone should. Because if we only protected people we had connections to, we'd be no better than the council. Patel stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. When this is over, if you survive, Talaxis would be honored to join a human alliance. One thing at a time, Governor. First, we survive. The weeks passed like hours. The shipyards never stopped. The scientists never stopped. The pilots trained until they could fly their routes in their sleep. The loading crews worked until their hands bled. Admiral Na watched it all. She walked the stations, spoke to the crews, learned their names. At night, alone in her quarters, she kept a list. Everyone who would fly with her. Everyone she would lead into the fire. 3 days before launch, the fleet gathered in orbit. 73 ships arranged in formation. From Earth, they looked like a constellation, small lights against the darkness. Dr. Sung stood in the flagship's cargo bay running final checks. All disruptors online. Synchronization network stable. We're as ready as we'll ever be. That's not very ready, Beck muttered. No, Sung agreed, but it'll have to be enough. Pilot Quan sat in his fighter's cockpit running through pre-flight checks. His hands moved automatically now. He had done these checks so many times they were muscle memory. Around him, the other pilots were doing the same. The communications channel crackled. All pilots, this is Admiral Na. Tomorrow we launch. Tomorrow we show the galaxy what humanity means. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because it's right. Get some rest. You'll need it. Quan doubted anyone would sleep that night. He was right. In her ready room, Admiral Na reviewed the final mission parameters. The fleet would travel for 2 weeks to reach the convergence point. 2 weeks to prepare mentally for what they would face. 2 weeks to say goodbye to anyone they loved. She had no family. Her husband had died in the colony wars. Her children were grown and safe on Earth. This made it easier somehow. She had nothing to lose except her own life. And that had never seemed particularly important compared to billions of others. Commander Rin made her final rounds. Every ship, every disruptor, everything had to be perfect. When she finally returned to her quarters, she found a message waiting. From her sister back on Earth. Come home safe, the message said. Simple words. Impossible request. Rin deleted the message. There was no point in carrying hope that would only hurt worse when it died. Launch day arrived with clear skies above Earth. A good omen, people said. Admiral Na didn't believe in omens. She believed in ships, weapons, and the courage of her crew. All ships report ready, the communications officer announced. Nay looked at the view screen. 73 ships, thousands of people, all trusting her to lead them, all knowing they might not return. This is Admiral Na to all ships. 4 months ago, the council turned away. They called us young, reckless, foolish. Maybe they're right. But we're going anyway. Because someone has to stand. Today, that someone is us. All ships engage engines. Destination? The swarm. Let's go show the galaxy what humans can do. The engines fired. 73 ships accelerated away from Earth. Behind them, billions watched. Some prayed. Some cried. Some stood in silence. The Council's evacuation fleet, already weeks ahead, received the news. The humans had launched. They were really doing it. Most council members dismissed it. Youthful stupidity. They would die and the galaxy would learn an important lesson about knowing one's limits. But some watched differently. Some wondered if maybe, just maybe, the humans understood something the council had forgotten. The fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars, heading toward fire, toward death, toward a slim chance of saving millions they had never met. It was the most human thing imaginable. The Great Hall floated in space above a dying world. Inside, representatives from 100 different species sat in their designated seats. The air smelled of fear, though each species produced fear differently. Some released chemical signals, others changed colors. The humans simply sat very still. Captain Day watched the holographic display at the center of the hall. It showed something that shouldn't exist. A dark mass moving through space, swallowing stars as it traveled. The void swarm, they called it. 3 solar systems had already vanished. Billions of lives gone in days. The projections are clear, the Archon announced. Its voice echoed through translation devices. The swarm will reach the rim worlds in 4 months. Perhaps less. Next to Day, Chief Engineer Hay studied her datapad. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. Combat Specialist Tai sat on the other side, his face showing no emotion. They had traveled 3 weeks to reach this station. 3 weeks to present their plan. Humanity requests permission to speak, Day said, standing up. Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. The Archon gestured with one of its many limbs. Proceed. Day activated her own holographic display. Blue light filled the space above her. We have developed quantum disruptors, weapons that can destabilize the swarm's structure. Our calculations show a 73% chance of diverting its path away from inhabited systems. A ripple of noise filled the hall. The Vrelian ambassador, a tall being covered in silver scales, stood up. Destabilize? Not destroy? The swarm cannot be destroyed with current technology, Hay explained, standing to join Day. But it can be pushed, redirected into uninhabited space. This buys time for evacuation and for developing better weapons. And the cost? Asked the Korthan matriarch. She was old, older than most species in the hall. Her skin looked like ancient stone. Tay stood. High. The disruptors must be deployed inside the swarm's corona. Temperatures there exceed anything our shields can withstand for long. Ships going in will face 90% casualties. Silence fell over the hall, the kind of silence that felt heavy. You're asking us to send our people to certain death, the Vrelian ambassador said. His voice carried disgust. Based on untested human technology. We're not asking you to send anyone, Day replied. Humanity will deploy the disruptors. We only ask for council support. Resources, coordination of evacuation efforts while we buy you time. The Archon's many eyes blinked in sequence. The council must deliberate. Humanity will wait outside. The three humans left the hall. They stood in the observation deck watching stars through the massive windows. Hay leaned against the glass. They're going to refuse. I know, Day said. So why did we come? Tay asked. Because we had to try. Day looked at her reflection in the glass. She looked tired. They all did, because asking first was the right thing to do. Hours passed. Finally, the summons came. The humans returned to the hall. The Archon spoke with a voice that seemed apologetic. The Council has reached a decision. We acknowledge humanity's courage. However, the risk is too great. Your species is young. Your technology untested. The probability of failure exceeds acceptable parameters. So what's your plan? Hay asked, unable to keep the frustration from her voice. Evacuation. Full retreat from the rim worlds. We will establish new defensive positions deeper in council space. The swarm will exhaust itself on empty systems. Day felt something cold settle in her stomach. You're abandoning them. 30 billion people live in the rim worlds. We are saving who we can save, the Korthan matriarch said. This is strategic necessity, not cruelty. 30 billion people, Day repeated. And you're just going to leave them. The Vrelian ambassador's scales shifted to a darker color. Humanity has been part of the council for only 40 years. You do not understand the mathematics of survival. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary. This is why elder species must make these decisions. Tay's hand moved toward his sidearm. Day grabbed his wrist without looking. Don't. The vote was unanimous, the Archon said. Humanity's plan is rejected. All council resources will focus on evacuation. This decision is final. Day stood very still for a moment. Then she straightened her uniform. Then humanity will proceed alone. The hall erupted in noise, species shouting in dozens of languages. The Archon raised multiple limbs for silence. You cannot. Council law forbids military action without authorization. Then we resign from the council, Day said. The words came out calm, certain. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all council treaties and agreements. We will handle this ourselves. You're committing suicide, the Korthan matriarch said, for people who aren't even your own species. They're people, Hay said. That's enough. The three humans turned and walked toward the exit. Behind them, the council continued arguing, debating, planning their retreat. The humans didn't look back. In the docking bay, their ship waited, a small diplomatic vessel, not designed for combat. Tay started the pre-flight sequence. Hay sent an encrypted message to Earth. Day sat in the captain's chair and watched the council station shrink in the view screen. Command confirms, Hay said. Earth is mobilizing. Every available ship. They're calling it Operation Last Stand. Not last, Day corrected. First. This is just the first time we've had to stand alone. The council will watch us fail, Tay said. They'll use our deaths as proof they were right. Maybe, Day agreed. Or maybe they'll watch us succeed. Either way, we walk forward. The ship accelerated away from the station. Behind them, council vessels began their evacuation. Massive transports heading away from the rim. Away from the swarm. Away from the fight. The humans pointed their ship toward home, toward Earth, toward the fleet that was already being assembled. They had 4 months. 4 months to prepare. 4 months to build. 4 months before they would fly into fire that could kill them all. But they would fly. Because someone had to. Because 30 billion lives were worth the risk. Because being young didn't mean being wrong. The Council had turned away. But humanity was just getting started. In the observation deck they had just left, one junior member of the Vrelian delegation watched the human ship disappear. "They're really going to do it," she whispered. "They're fools," her superior said. But the junior delegate wasn't sure. She had seen something in the human's eyes. Not stupidity. Not recklessness. Something else. Something the Council had maybe forgotten during its long existence. Hope that refused to die, even when death was certain. 4 months after the battle, Admiral Na stood before the United Earth Assembly. The room was full of politicians, military leaders, and citizens chosen by lottery to witness the proceedings. Everyone wanted to be part of this moment. "The swarm is reforming," Na reported. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt tired. So tired. Our deep space monitors show it gathering strength. It's adapting. Learning from our attack. When it moves again, it will head for Council Core worlds. There will be nowhere to run. Silence filled the chamber. Then the questions began. Can we stop it again? How many ships would we need? What are the casualties projections? No waited for quiet. Dr. Sung has developed second-generation reality anchors. They're more powerful than the quantum disruptors. They don't just push the swarm back. They stabilize space itself, trapping it. But they require 3 times the power and 10 times the precision. We'd need a larger fleet, better coordination. And we'd need to get even closer to the swarm's core. How close? Someone asked. Close enough to see it tear reality apart around us. More silence. A counselor from the African Union stood. The Council abandoned us once. They watched us die. Why should we help them now? It was a fair question, one that Na had asked herself 100 times. Because 30 billion people on the rim worlds are alive today because we helped when no one else would. Na looked around the chamber. We didn't help them for gratitude. We helped them because it was right. The same logic applies now. The swarm threatens 10 trillion lives in Council space. We have the ability to help. That means we have the responsibility. Even after they turned away from us, the counselor pressed, especially after they turned away from us. Because we're better than that. We're better than they were. The vote took 3 days. In the end, Earth's government authorized Operation Final Stand. Every available resource would go toward building a new fleet. Dr. Sung's reality anchors would be produced in secret facilities across the solar system. Training would begin immediately for new crews, but this time they wouldn't go alone. In the council chambers, Admiral Na presented the same data to the Galactic Council. She had been invited to address them, the first human to do so since they had resigned months earlier. The swarm will reach Council Core worlds in 6 months, she explained. Our projections show 93% destruction of inhabited systems, unless action is taken. We have a plan. We need your help to execute it. The Vrelian ambassador stood. He looked different somehow, older, tired. What do you need? Ships, crew, resources. This time humanity cannot do it alone. And if we refuse? The Corthan matriarch asked. But her voice lacked its earlier hostility. She was asking because she needed to know, not because she wanted to argue. Then we try anyway, with whatever we have, and probably fail, and watch the galaxy burn. Na's voice was calm, factual, but we'll try, because that's what we do. The council deliberated for hours. Na waited outside, watching ships pass through the station's windows. Captain Day found her there. Think they'll help? Tay asked. Some will, maybe not officially, but some will. Na glanced at her friend. You heard about the volunteers? From the rim worlds? Yes, thousands of them. People who want to serve because we saved their families. Day shook her head. It's strange, isn't it? We lost 15,000 people and gained millions of supporters. The universe has a dark sense of humor. The council's decision came at sunset, Earth time. The Archon delivered it personally, coming to the human delegation's quarters. The council cannot officially support military action, the Archon said. Its voice carried something that might have been regret. Political considerations, treaties, old wounds. You understand? I understand, Na said. And she did. Bureaucracy moved slowly. Fear moved slowly. Courage, real courage, was rare, however. The Archon's eyes blinked in sequence. Individual council members are free to act independently. The Vrelian ambassador has resigned his position. He is gathering ships from those who wish to help. The Corthan matriarch has done the same. Others are following. How many ships? Day asked. At last count? 47. From 6 different species. All volunteers. All willing to follow human command. The Archon paused. It's not enough. But it's something. Na felt something tight in her chest loosen slightly. Tell them thank you. Tell them we won't waste their trust. I will tell them you said that. But Admiral? The Archon met her eyes. They already know. The combined fleet began assembling at a neutral station between human and council space. 47 council ships, 62 human vessels built in a frenzy over the past months. Crews from a dozen species learning to work together, learning to trust each other. It wasn't easy. In the training simulators, pilot Quan flew alongside a Vrelian pilot named Ven. They had been paired up deliberately. Human and Vrelian, former enemies becoming allies. Your turning radius is too wide, Ven commented. His voice came through translated but carried obvious frustration. You'll get killed flying like that. Your weapons timing is off, Quan replied. You fire too early. Waste ammunition. They flew in hostile silence for another hour. Then Ven spoke again. My brother was on the evacuation fleet. He's alive because your people bought time. I didn't thank you. I should have. Quan was quiet for a moment. My best friend died in the first battle, Gil. He had kids. A wife. He died so strangers could live. People like your brother. Then I owe him. And you owe us nothing. Just fly well. That's all we ask. After that, they flew better together. Dr. Sung worked in Lab Complex 7 with scientists from 4 different species. The reality anchors were more complex than the quantum disruptors. Required precision that pushed the limits of their technology. The synchronization window is 0.03 seconds, Sung explained to her team. If we're off by even that much, the anchors will fail. Probably catastrophically. A Corthan engineer named Mora studied the designs. This is brilliant. And insane, both at once. That's humanity for you, Beck said. He had survived the first battle and insisted on serving again. We specialize in brilliant insanity. Will it work? Mora asked. Sung looked at her calculations. At the simulations. At the probability curves. Yes, maybe. Probably, I give it 60% chance of success. And the other 40%? We all die. Space tears apart. Possibly cause a chain reaction that destabilizes local reality for several light years. Sung looked up from her work. But 60% is better odds than we had last time. Mora stared at her. Then laughed. A deep rumbling sound. You humans are completely mad. I'm glad we're on your side. Admiral Na conducted one final inspection before launch. She walked through every ship, human and council both, met every crew member she could, learned their names when possible. On the Vrelian ship Independence, the former Ambassador Bond met her in the cargo bay. He wore a flight suit now instead of diplomatic robes. He had gone from politician to warrior in 4 months. My government called me a traitor, Bond said. Said I disgraced our people by volunteering with humans. Did you? Na asked. Disgrace my people? No, I honored them. The old ways. Before we became afraid, before we forgot what courage meant. He gestured to his crew. All Vrelian. All volunteers. We remember now. You taught us when we didn't teach you anything. We just reminded you. Perhaps. But the reminder was necessary. The fleet assembled in formation. 109 ships. Not enough. Never enough. But more than they had before. Human vessels at the center. Council ships around the edges. A mixed formation that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Captain Day stood on the Indomitable's bridge beside Na. This is either the bravest thing the galaxy has ever done, or the stupidest. Probably both, Na agreed. Status report? All ships ready. Reality anchors loaded and tested. Crews prepared. We can launch on your order. Na looked at the view screen. At the ships arranged in space. At the stars beyond them, somewhere out there the swarm waited. Growing stronger. Preparing to consume everything, open a fleet-wide channel. Channel open, Admiral. Na took a breath. All ships, this is Admiral Na. 6 months ago, humanity walked into fire alone. The Council watched. Some called us fools. Some called us heroes. We called ourselves necessary. Today we walk into fire again. But not alone. Ships from 6 species fly beside us, volunteers, warriors, friends. The swarm doesn't discriminate. It will consume human and Vrelian and Korthan alike. So we stand together, not because we're the same, but because we're all worth saving. And because when the darkness comes, someone has to hold the light. Today we are that someone. All ships engage engines. Let's go finish this. The fleet moved as one. 109 ships accelerating toward the swarm. Toward death. Toward hope. On Earth, billions watched. In council space, trillions watched. The broadcast showed the fleet disappearing into the darkness between stars. Will they succeed? A child asked her mother on some distant world. The mother didn't know. Nobody knew. But she answered anyway. They'll try. And sometimes trying is enough. The fleet traveled for 3 weeks. Every day the swarm grew larger in their sensors. Every day the crews trained harder, prepared more, made their peace with death. Pilot Quan and Ven flew simulation after simulation. They had stopped arguing, started trusting, became something close to friends. Dr. Sung ran final checks on the reality anchors. Everything